Today we're telling the story of a wealthy, well-respected man that lost everything. Instead of turning to corruption, falling into depression, or just disappearing from history, he proclaimed himself Emperor of the United States of America and brought joy and happiness to an entire city. This is the story of Emperor Norton, the first and last Emperor of the United States of America. Joshua Abraham Norton was born on February 4th, 1819, maybe. Nobody really knows, but that is the date that's accepted by the Emperor Norton Trust. You can find a link to that in the description below. Shortly after he was born, he actually moved to South Africa, and nobody really knows what happened there, but in 1849, he showed up in San Francisco with about $40,000. This was an extremely substantial amount of money at the time, so he was fairly well off when he showed up in San Francisco. He immediately took this money that he had and started investing it in real estate and commodities, and this was a huge time for San Francisco, obviously, because of the gold rush, so there were a lot of people that were coming in, and he was able to accumulate a large sum of money very quickly. By 1852, he had actually made about $250,000, which in today's money is about $8 million. So at this point, he had become one of the wealthier San Franciscans, and he was very well known and well respected by the community. In December 1852, a famine forced China to halt all rice exports. Joshua Norton saw this as an opportunity to corner the market. He learned of a ship that was coming from Peru that was full of rice that he could purchase at a low price. He purchased this rice under contract for 12.5 cents per pound when the current going rate was 36 cents per pound. So this seems like one of those deals that's too good to be true, and obviously it was. Over the next several weeks, more and more ships of rice came from Peru, oversaturating the market, and the price of the rice plummeted. It plummeted all the way down to 3 cents per pound, and he was losing tons of money. He tried to get out of his contract through a lawsuit. That didn't work. He ended up losing, and by 1856, he declared bankruptcy. So what do you do if you are one of the wealthiest and most respected men in San Francisco, and just a few years later, you're completely bankrupt? Of course, you declare yourself Emperor of the United States. So on September 17th, 1859, Joshua Norton declared himself Emperor Norton of the United States. He just decided that he was going to become emperor and change everything. Emperor Norton declared, "At the peremptory request of a large majority of the citizens of these United States, I, Joshua Norton, formerly of Algoa Bay, Cape of Good Hope, and now for the last 9 years, 10 months past of San Francisco, California, declare and proclaim myself Emperor of these United States." And then he goes on to state how he's going to alter laws, abolish evil, and he also soon after proclaims himself the protector of Mexico. I know what you're thinking, that this guy went crazy, but by all accounts, he was not crazy. He was extravagant. He kind of lived on the outskirts of society, but by all accounts, he was completely sane. He just wanted to make a difference. He went on over the next 20 years making proclamations, and the people in San Francisco loved him. He was a proponent of equal rights for everyone, including voting rights for women. On October 12th, 1859, he went as far as to formally abolish Congress, citing fraud and corruption. So obviously his decrees did not work. We still have the same Congress, and it appears that it still operates under the same means that it did back then. He even ordered the army to depose Congress, but of course all of these decrees went completely ignored. Though these decrees went completely ignored by Congress and the military, they did not go ignored by the people of San Francisco, who loved it every time he came out with one of these new proclamations. He even came out with proclamations at the time that ended up coming true. He ordered that a bridge be built between San Francisco and Oakland, and now obviously that is the case. He also called for an institution extremely similar to the United Nations. The emperor kept himself up to date on local government by reading the newspaper, attending lectures and debates, and so he kept himself in the community and along with all of the people that were making the laws and setting the standards. During all of this time, he actually lived in a small studio apartment, and the rent there was actually paid for by his wealthy friends. He considered this this charity that they were giving him? Taxes for the emperor. Next to his apartment worked a young journalist by the name of Samuel Langhorne Clements, or Mark Twain. Many literary characters are actually based on Emperor Norton. Mark Twain used him, so did Robert Louis Stevenson, among others. Even this charity that was given to him by his wealthy friends was not even enough all the time, and he just wanted more spending money, so he just made his own money. He actually made money with his face on it, and not only that, it worked. He knew so many people and was so well liked in the community that he made his own money, and the establishments that he frequented accepted this money. They didn't have a second thought about it. He showed up with money with his face on it, and they loved it. They thought it was great, so he was allowed to use this money at many establishments. In one famous encounter, an overzealous security guard named Armand Barbier actually arrested Emperor Norton for vagrancy. The officer later changed the charge from vagrancy to lunacy, and the city immediately came to his defense. In what can only be described as the most dastardly of errors, Joshua A. Norton was arrested today. He is being held on the ludicrous charge of lunacy. Known and loved by all true San Franciscans as Emperor Norton, the kindly monarch of Montgomery Street is less a lunatic than those who have engineered these trumped-up charges. As they will learn, His Majesty's loyal subjects are fully appraised of this outrage. Other editorials also praised the emperor and condemned this arrest. Based on all of this outrage, the emperor was released, and true to emperor form, he immediately pardoned the security guard that had arrested him. After this, any police officers and security guards that ran into the emperor out on the streets saluted him. Emperor Norton is actually known for the phrase "a king for a day" or "a queen for a day." He regularly anointed children in the neighborhood king for a day or queen for a day, or even adults in the neighborhood that just seemed like they needed it. Emperor Norton for 20 years roamed the streets of San Francisco, checking the roadways, checking the sidewalks, checking the trolleys, doing all of these inspections as the emperor, all the way up until one day on January 8, 1880, when he was walking on the sidewalk at the corner of California and what is now Grant Avenue, and he collapsed and passed. It was reported that after he died, over 10,000 people showed up to either view his casket or attend his funeral. By all reports, Emperor Norton was an extremely extravagant person, but not crazy. He was extremely well liked, and the proclamations that he made were, at least to him, for the good of the people. He brought enjoyment, entertainment, and happiness to an entire city during his time as the Emperor of the United States of America. I hope you enjoyed this story. If so, don't forget to like, leave comments, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.